Let's go to Kyiv and speak to Gulliver Cragg. Gulliver, I'm minded of the fact that Friedrich Merz, the next Chancellor, said this on the campaign trail about Ukraine. He said, "Peace can be found in any cemetery. It is our freedom we have to defend." And notably, in the recent weeks since Donald Trump took office, he's been far more cautious, no more tough, hawkish rhetoric of late. What's the feeling in Kyiv about who could be the next Chancellor and about the result tonight?
Well, I think the general feeling is that Friedrich Merz is going to be an improvement on Olaf Scholz. He is seen as tougher talking on Russia and more supportive of Ukraine, particularly in recent days after J.D. Vance's speech at the Munich Security Conference. He seemed to be on board with the Ukrainians' calls coming from Volodymyr Zelensky that Europe really needed to wake up and get its act together on defence. Whether he can really do that much is a different matter. There's one very concrete thing that the Ukrainians are going to be looking for, is whether or not Germany will now finally give them these famous Taurus long-range missiles, which Olaf Scholz made a point of principle of sticking to his guns and refusing to give them those. But German public opinion is still perhaps not in favour of giving them to Ukraine. And the result of this election is also a disappointment in the sense that the Ukrainians, what they really need is a Europe that's as strong as possible with German leadership. And so the likelihood of it being a three-way coalition, meaning longer tractations and perhaps more instability, that's not very good for Ukraine. I mean, as I understand it, they're not likely to have a government in place in Germany till April, right at this moment when really, with the United States behaving the way it is, Ukraine needs for there to be strong leadership in Europe. And then, of course, the overall tendency shown by these elections, which reflects the tendency in other European countries as well, is not very good from the Ukrainian perspective at all. If you add together AfD, Die Linke and Sarah Wagenknecht, you've got close on a third of Germans voting for pro-Russian parties. I mean, I know that their stance on Russia is perhaps not the main issue that makes them choose these parties, the Germans, but the Ukrainians would say that it ought to be, that you ought to be regarding policy towards Russia as the absolute priority in any European country at the moment, and I think that they're disappointed to know that that's still not the case.
That's a very good point I'm going to put to the panel in a moment. Before you go, Gulliver, he also asked, Friedrich Merz, next likely Chancellor, also was asked the question about two key points, which we're about to see Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer, the French and British leaders, talk to Donald Trump about, reportedly, which is the idea of peacekeepers or a reassurance force in time of peace. Now, he was asked that question by The Economist. In the last couple of weeks, he said, "I won't talk about the if. Let's see, hypothetically, what happens." So he wouldn't go there. He was also asked about the Taurus missiles. He talked about, again, these are if questions, but he talked about needing to see some caveats. And he said there could be options for peacekeepers, reassurance force, but not before a ceasefire. So he's really not committing there. And for a final thought on the way President Zelensky, embattled right now, would see it, what does he essentially want from Germany in the short term?
Well, he's not committing, but he's not ruling them out either, basically, is he, Friedrich Merz? In the short term, Zelensky wants the Taurus missiles, I think. And in the also in the short term, he wants to see Germany taking a strong stance and saying the kinds of things that Friedrich Merz was saying earlier that you quoted him on about, you can't just have peace at any price. It's got to be a just peace. It's got to be a lasting peace.
To talk to you, Gulliver Cragg, our correspondent in Kyiv.